Hello everyone. So in this lecture we are going to cover the Vision IAS Current Affairs of June 2026. Now please understand one thing. Vision IAS is going through some internal crisis and that's why they have not released the monthly magazine. So what I have done, I have compiled their daily current affairs and then I have categorized them according to the subjects. And that's how we have prepared this monthly magazine. So there can be two possibilities. Either you can cover your current affairs through this one, or you can wait for the official magazine and then you can cover it. The problem is that official magazine is already delayed and there is a gap of almost 2 months. We are in the month of July. July is about to be over and still the June magazine is not out. So if you want to wait, you can wait, and if you want to cover, you can cover it through this one. Secondly, if you are a new student and you have not covered the previous month's Vision IAS monthly magazine, and then I would recommend please go through the previous monthly current affairs videos of Vision IAS, which are already posted on this channel. Please understand this is not the official channel of Vision IAS. I am just trying to simplify those current affairs. Okay, now let's start. So first section is related to polity, and within polity the first article is related to the PRS report. Now PRS is legislative research, so they have released an annual report which has highlighted the shortcoming of the Indian state legislatures. Now understand 2-3 important things. A, there are various issues related to state legislatures. Number one is lesser number of legislative sittings. That's one issue. So on an average the assembly met for only 24 days and more than 600 bills were passed. Now what will happen? Because of this there is a problem of hasty legislation. Why there is a hasty legislation? Because of frequent disruption and less number of sitting. There are less debates, less discussions, less number of bills are forwarded to the joint committees, and that's why there is less deliberation on those bills. That's why there is hasty legislation. Then it is challenged in the court, so it leads to burden on the judiciary, or it increases the litigation, scope of litigation. Plus there is one more problem. Because of frequent disruption in the legislature, usually the executive route is taken. Executive route basically means I'm talking about the ordinance. So in that case also there is executive overreach. Why I'm saying overreach? Because ideally this lawmaking is the function of legislature, so ideally it should have been done by legislature, but in this case if there will be frequent disruption then executive route is taken. So this also leads to executive overreach. So these are some of the issues which are highlighted. Now this article is quite important from a UPSC mains perspective, because it gives you a few keywords which you can use in your mains answer. For example, number one, there is severe democratic deficit. Why there is a severe democratic deficit? Because there is lack of adequate discussion on these bills. So they are passed without proper discussion and debate. Second, there is erosion of financial accountability. Why there is erosion of financial accountability? Because again there is less discussion on the budget section. For example, almost 70% of the budget was passed without much discussion. So again that is another problem, and this has led to erosion of financial accountability. Another challenge is executive overreach. We have already seen that ordinance route is taken. Then there is a challenge that poor institutions are there. This is highlighted through institutional decay. In a very simple sense, they are functioning. 8 state assembly are functioning without a proper deputy speaker. Even in Lok Sabha we don't have a deputy speaker, in last term also and in this term as well. So again the institutions are not utilized properly, so that's why it is criticized. And because of this, what is happening? There is a frequent disruption. That's one issue. Institutions are not utilized properly. Then there is a friction between the state government, elected state government, and the governor who has been appointed by the central government. So because of this there is a conflict between the central and state, which leads to constitutional friction or deadlock. So these are some of the issues which are highlighted. All of these keywords can be used whenever you have to show that why the legislature is not able to perform up to the mark. Next article is also related to similar topic, that is frequent disruption in the legislature. This poses a challenge to the democratic institution. This was a statement by the Lok Sabha Speaker. Again, we have to understand the same issues, that there is a democratic deficit, lack of adequate discussion is there. This erode the accountability of these lawmakers. Then there is a executive overreach. Then there is a increased risk of litigation and so on. So this delay the entire legislative business, this weak the deliberative democracy, because ultimately, understand, in a parliamentary democracy, why we elect members of parliament, so that we can frame, so that they can frame legislation. But if they won't debate enough, quality of legislation is going to be poor. Then there is a loss of functional time, again loss of taxpayers money, and this leads to declining consultative spirit or cooperative federalism as well, because in case of Rajya Sabha, again that promote the sense of cooperation between the central and state. Now, what is the way forward for this? So understand 2-3 important keywords are there in this case as well, which you can use in your mains answer. Number one is that there should be specific opposition days. This is a concept which is used in UK, that opposition parties should have dedicated days where they are going to present their views. This way, we will have a clear-cut time allocation for that. Plus, we have to increase the number of sitting days, which was recommended by National Commission to review the working of Constitution. And then we should have all-party business advisory committee, and there should be a legislative committee of the parliament to make sure that things are executed as per the proper schedule. So these are some of the recommendations. Next topic is also related to, again, legislature itself, the quality of legislation. Why quality of legislation? Because it reflects the criminalization of politics. See, we usually say that, okay, lawmakers, those people who are involved in breaking the law, they should not be lawmakers. So 31% of Rajya Sabha MP have declared criminal cases as per ADR. What is ADR? It is Association for Democratic Reforms. So as per this report, this highlight that roughly 1/3 of these politicians have criminal record, and this highlight the criminalization of politics. Again, these are some of the important facts. You need not to mug these facts as of now. You just need to go through them before your actual mains exam. So in the context of criminalization, there is a Vohra committee which highlighted this criminalization of politics, and subsequently we have to make sure that there is a clean and transparent funding mechanism for these political parties. Right now, we don't know how these political parties arrange fund, and that's why there is a risk of crony capitalism as well. Crony capitalism. What is crony capitalism? Actually, in a simple sense, this is the nexus between the political class and the business class. The business class is going to fund the elections, and in return, they will get the favorable contracts. Apart from that, because of this criminalization, again, there is unnecessary burden on the judicial system, which leads to more number of cases, subsequently more delay. There are various steps in this direction, but again, ultimately it depends on the winnability factor. So to some extent, we the people are also responsible, because we vote people on the basis of their winnability. So if we will not elect, or if we will not vote for those who have criminal cases against them, ideally political parties will not give ticket to them. So ultimately, this needs to be tackled from both sides, that is from top down. That simply means, of course, political parties need to take step for it, but people also need to be very careful whom they are voting. Next is related to right to be forgotten. In a very simple sense, it is just like erasing your history on internet. For example, let's say there is a person, a case was filed against that person, and later that person was acquitted. No evidence was found against that person. Now this person is saying, I want my record to be eliminated from the internet, so that if someone search my name, they should not see this case, because this case is fake. This was not proven, so it should be removed. This is basically referred as a right to be forgotten. So this was in news recently because of this Delhi High Court case. Delhi High Court in Lakshveer Singh versus Union of India recognized that this right is there. It is integral part of Article 21. In a very simple sense, that information need to be removed, so that the search engine do not provide information. That information should not be provided to other people. Now, this can be removed in two ways. One is de-indexing. De-indexing, in a very simple sense, try to understand it this way. The record exists, but you will not be able to access it because the link has been removed. That's one thing. Second is masking. Masking simply means that entire report will be there, but the name of the person will be hidden, or basically a black strip will be put on that name or on that record, so that you cannot identify who that person was. So these are some of the ways through which this is implemented. Next is related to fire hazard in Indian cities. So understand one important thing. There are frequent fire incidents, especially in our urban areas, that show that the urban governance is not up to the mark. And one of the major reason for that is lack of adequate funding. So because of lack of adequate funding, they don't have advanced equipments, they don't have well-trained staff. Sometimes these basic equipments don't even function whenever they are required. Now, as far as our third tier institutions are concerned, so basically our urban local bodies, they have this responsibility as per the provisions of Article 243W and as per the 12th schedule. Fire prevention is their responsibility. Still they struggle to handle it. Why? Because they don't have adequate resources. Now, in urban areas, we have National Building Code, which is prepared by BIS, that is Bureau of Indian Standards. Apart from that, we have Standing Fire Advisory Council. As the name suggests, it is going to give recommendations related to the fire. Please remember one thing, examiner can set a trap that it is related to Ministry of Panchayat Raj or Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. It is under Ministry of Home Affairs. So it is apex advisory body under MHA. Now coming to the municipal authorities. So municipal authorities don't have much financial resources at their disposal and they are dependent on the grants. Roughly 60% of their income is in the form of grants from the central government as well as from the state government. That simply means they don't have their own resources, and that's why you will see that the situation of our urban governance is abysmal. They don't have any kind of infrastructure, be it garbage collection, be it water disposal related facilities, or be it related to fire services. So these cities are struggling. Plus, there is one more problem. Problem is that there is unplanned migration or unplanned urbanization. Plus, because of this unplanned urbanization, there is one more issue, that is of slums. Why we have slums? Because we have low FSI. What is FSI? It is floor space index. The economic survey also highlighted this problem. What is this floor space index? In a very simple sense, how tall building are allowed in a particular city. Let's say 10-story building is allowed, 12-story building is allowed, 5-story building is allowed. If taller buildings are allowed, that simply means we will require less land. The problem is in our country, FSI is very low. The economic survey had pinpointed this problem, and because of that, what is happening is that there is a horizontal expansion of cities. Now, what is this horizontal expansion? Horizontal expansion basically means you need more and more area to expand the city. Land is a scarce resource, especially for a country like ours where population is roughly 150 CR. So that's why it is problematic. Now, what is happening? We don't have that much land, so what will happen? We don't have that much residential facilities in urban areas, and this leads to the problem of slums. So instead of vertical expansion of the cities, we have horizontal expansion of the cities. So that is another problem. Next news is related to the use of AI in the judiciary. So recently, Supreme Court published the draft regulations on the use of AI in judiciary. Please understand, AI can be used in the basic administrative role. So it can do the paperwork, but for judgment, AI should not be used, and this is what this draft regulation is highlighting. So there is a complete ban on the use of AI in a judgment. For example, whether a person should be given bail or not. For these kind of instances, AI should not be used. Why it should not be used? Of course, first element is human element is missing in case of AI. You need to consider the circumstances of that person, and that can be done by human itself. Okay, that's one thing. Second is there is a problem of hallucination. Now, what is hallucination? Hallucination basically means AI start imagining circumstances, and based on that, it is going to create more circumstances. Let me give you a very basic example. Let's say somehow it is said that okay, the August 2027 document does not contain this topic. So somehow it is going to convince that okay, this topic is there and this is mentioned in that topic, even though August 2027 is 1 year away from present time. So that's how basically there is a problem with the use of AI in the decision making. For administrative purpose, you can use it, for example, for finding mistakes, spelling mistakes, or for translating the content from one language to another language. AI can be used. Next is related to University of Liverpool. They are going to establish their campus in Bangalore. So what we are doing, we are inviting more and more international institutions to set up their campus in India. Why it is so important for us? Understand. There is a brain drain. Brain drain basically means the talent of our country is migrating outside to study in these international institutions. So that's one challenge. After migration, they tend to settle in those countries. So that's one challenge. Second challenge is when they migrate, their family will of course send money for their studies. So that is outward remittance. Outward remittance basically means money is going from India to those countries. So these are two major issues. That's why government is saying, okay, why not to invite these universities to set up their campus in India itself? And that's why this news is there. So first problem is the problem of brain drain, and second problem is the problem of outward remittances. In this context, just remember the scheme of RBI, that is LRS. What is LRS? It is liberalized remittance scheme. Under this scheme, you can basically send money to other countries for investment, for healthcare, for education, etc., for tourism as well. Now that's one part of the story, that international institutions are setting up their campus in India. There's one more side to it. Indian institutions are also setting up their campus in other countries. Basically, it is internationalization of Indian institutions. And for that, you can give example of expansion of Indian institutions. For example, IIT have set up their campus in Abu Dhabi and Tanzania. In Tanzania, there is a campus, I think, in Zanzibar. So you can give example of both international institutions coming to India to set up their campus, our institutions going global to set up their campus. Next is related to National Award for E-Governance. The name itself is self-explanatory. So this award was given for e-governance. Now understand that this is an initiative by the Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances. And this was started in 2023. You need not to mug up too much in this case. Just remember that it is an initiative of Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances. And it is open to ministries, local bodies and PSU. Next topic is quite important, and it is related to Panchayat Advancement Index. So it talks about the sustainable development goals and their implementation at Panchayat level. Now understand 2-3 important things before discussing the main topic. We had MDG. What is MDG? Millennium Development Goals. The timeline was from 2000 to 2015. Then we had SDG. What is SDG? Sustainable Development Goals. The timeline is from 2015 to 2030. How many goals are there? So total 17 goals are there. How many targets are there? 169 targets are there. Okay. Now in India, Niti Aayog is the apex body for this. And for tracking these sustainable development goals or performance of these goals, the MOSPI, that is Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, has developed an indicator framework. What is this indicator framework? In a very simple sense, just like, for example, we have to evaluate your performance. So there is a prelims exam, there is a mains exam. In mains there are different subjects. Similarly, we are trying to evaluate the performance in the implementation of SDG. So that is National Indicator Framework, that is NIF. And it has been developed by MOSPI, that is Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Similarly, we are implementing these sustainable development goals at Panchayat level as well. This is basically referred as a localization of SDG. Localization simply means we are implementing these goals according to local circumstances, and we are implementing them in the local areas itself. So recently, the second version of this index was released, and that's why it was in news. So 2-3 important things. Number one, it is an initiative of Ministry of Panchayati Raj. That's first thing. It covers 9 themes and it is aligned with the localization of SDG. And there are different parameters. On those parameters, states are given ranking. So basically, it also promotes the competitive federalism. What is competitive federalism? In a very simple sense, states compete with each other to outperform each other. You might have seen this kind of scenario in case of investment friendliness index as well, like which state is going to improve their business environment so that they can attract more and more investment. Now let's have a look at this PIB screenshot. So name of the ministry is Ministry of Panchayati Raj. The first PAI, that is Panchayat Advancement Index, the first ever index had the base year was 2022-23. That simply means we are going to compare our performance with this year. Now recently the second index was released, and it was released in April 2026. Okay, and as per that, there are 5 performance categories. Which are these 5 categories? So achiever category is there if the score is more than 90. Then there is a front runner category if the score is between 75 and 90. Then there is a performer category if the score is between 60 to 75, aspirant category, and beginner category. So if you are preparing for any state PCS exam, find out the score of your own state and then subsequently just note down the category as well. Next topic is related to report on data set for SFC, which is released by Ministry of Panchayati Raj. In a very simple sense, what is the situation at local level, at third tier level? See, first tier is central government. We have 3 tier structure. So first tier is central government, then at second tier is state level, and third tier is local self-governance. So for that, in rural areas we have PRI, and in urban area we have ULB. So this report basically highlights the problems at a third tier level. Now, what are the major issues? Again, it is more important from the perspective of means. Okay, so what are the problems? First problem is there, data fragmentation is there. Data fragmentation basically means we don't have a standard data set. For example, the data collection method of Panchayat is different from municipal bodies. So it is quite difficult to evaluate their performance. That's one issue. And because of that, we have fragmented data, and without data it is quite difficult to formulate policy. Usually we should focus on data driven policy making, that if there is a problem in this area, we should have data so that we can take decision accordingly. Second issue is these institutions do not have adequate infrastructure, and that's why they lack capacity. Now again, what is the problem? Why they don't have infrastructure? Because they don't have adequate financial resources. And third problem which is faced by these institutions is delay in the formation of SFC. What is SFC? State Finance Commission. Now please understand one thing, that SFC, that is State Finance Commission, is a constitutional body which is set up under Article 243I. Now understand one more thing. At central level we have Finance Commission, which is set up as per the Article 280. Recently 16th Finance Commission have released its report, and it is headed by Arvind Pangaria. So these are some of the issues faced by the urban local bodies, rural local bodies. So what we need to do, just reverse these things. For example, we need to have a proper data collection method so that we can formulate policy according to them. And then we need to have a permanent SFC cells, and for better comparison and to promote the spirit of competition, we need to introduce a standardized accounting system. Next topic is related to e-governance. Again, it is more important from the mains perspective. So recently the E-Jagriti platform won the National Award for e-governance. What is E-Jagriti? Jagriti is a Hindi term for awareness. So it is an initiative of consumer awareness, and for that we have a specific Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution. Next news is related to right to privacy. Now understand, this is a conflict between two important parts of the constitution. See, let's say there is a person, there is a prominent politician, and that person is saying that, let me give you a basic example. Let's say A is a very prominent politician, and B is saying that B is the son of A, but A is denying it. Now B has approached the court, and B is saying that okay, get the DNA test, and subsequently I will prove my inheritance in a very simple sense. The person A is claiming that under right to privacy, I'm not going to allow this to happen. So in that context, recently the court said that there is a need to balance the right of these two people. So the Supreme Court specified that there is a need of balance. We have to balance the right of the child to know their parent and the father's right to privacy. So the court said that it is not that every day you need to approve one DNA test for this kind of petition, but if there is a specific circumstance, then it can be allowed. Just understand this line very carefully. Court evaluate whether paternity is the core issue. No alternative evidence exists. If some alternative exists, then there is no need of paternity test. But if there is no other mechanism to decide the paternity, and this is the core issue, in that case, child's quest for identity outweigh basically means this will be given more priority in comparison to the intrusion of the privacy of that father. In a very simple sense, if that son is saying that, okay, I want to know whether this person is my father or not, in that case, because there will be a social stigma associated to it, so in that case, court is saying that the rights of that child will be given more priority in comparison to the right to privacy of that father. So that is the entire crux. In that context, just remember one prominent case, that is the case of Rohit Shekhar versus ND Tiwari case. So in this case, basically the court highlighted that the alleged father cannot hide behind the privacy when a grown-up child seek the lifelong closure and identity verification with no other proof available. That simply means the child wants to know whether they are actually the parent or not. Now, more than parenthood, again, of course, parenthood emotion is there. Apart from that, there is element of inheritance as well. So there are a lot of issues associated to it. Right to privacy, we have already covered multiple times. Puttaswamy judgment is there. Then there is a DPDP Act is there for privacy. We have already covered one more issue, that can police use surveillance, live surveillance. Is it a violation of right to privacy? We don't have any specific legislation in that context. So just remember these things. Next is related to FSSAI. So FSSAI is Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. It has recently issued a guideline that food should not be packed in the newspapers. Why not newspapers? Because newspapers have ink which is harmful for the body. So that's why they should not be used as a packaging material. Now FSSAI is under Health Ministry. That's one thing. Next issue is related to social media intermediaries. So basically the Delhi High Court has said that social media intermediaries need to take action and they cannot just claim immunity. Understand one simple thing. Let's say person A has posted something on, let's say, Instagram, and this content is offensive. In this case, a direct action cannot be taken against Instagram because they have immunity which is given by the IT Act, that is Information Technology Act. And that immunity is basically referred as safe harbor. Safe harbor basically means they are immune from the action as long as they follow the directions of the government. That means, let's say if the government says that the content of this person A is offensive and you need to remove it. So social media platforms need to remove it. If they don't, then they will lose this immunity which is given under the safe harbor clause. And for that removal request, there is a specific government platform. The name of the platform is Sahyog Portal. So the government is going to send the request through this portal, and then social media platforms will remove the content. Now let's say judiciary has given certain instructions to these platforms. Sometimes these platforms do not take these instructions seriously, and in that background, this is the judgment by Delhi High Court. So Delhi High Court in a contempt petition held that social media cannot be used to undermine the constitutional institutions like judiciary. In a very simple sense, people keep on making memes regarding these institutions. Baseless allegations are there. So court is saying that, okay, yes, you can criticize, no problem in that, but they should be based to that. Otherwise, it will undermine the judicial authority. Next is related to Article 329. Okay, let me give you a brief background. There was a politician. The politician filed the nomination papers for Rajya Sabha. The returning officer rejected the nomination on the ground that the politician have not disclosed the criminal cases. The politician approached the court. The court said we cannot intervene because of this Article 329. Why we cannot intervene? Because Article 329 prohibits the interference of the court in the electoral matters. Petition can be filed only after completion of the process. So that was the issue. Next is related to National Institute of Urban Affairs. So recently this institution was in news because it completed 50 years. It is an institution under Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Next is related to referendum. So in smaller countries, the element of referendum is there. In large country like India, it is quite difficult. So basically, it is a direct involvement of the citizens in the decision making. So recently there was a referendum, and that referendum was related to the population of Switzerland. So there was a kind of plan that should we limit our population to this number, and the number was 10 million. This was defeated. This proposal was defeated. Why? Because roughly 55% people voted against it. So this is an element of direct democracy where citizens vote directly to accept or reject a specific proposal. For example, let me give you a very basic example that should UPSC prelims be conducted twice a year. So for this kind of proposal, the people are going to vote, and then on the basis of popular vote, the decision will be taken. Next is related to draft Telecommunication Rules 2026. So new rules are released. Certain important things are there in these rules. Number one is, first is the name of the ministry, that MIB, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, has released these draft rules for broadcasting, and one such change is there. That is, unified framework is there. What is meaning of unified framework? For different modes of communication, you don't need different license. There will be one single approval, and then you can use it for different platform. For example, for satellite TV, DTH, HITS, radio, IP TV, for all these different platforms, you just need one single authorization. The license duration is different. 10 years is there for TV, etc., and 15 years for private FM, and 20 years for DTH. Again, you need not to go into too much detail, but you need to have a fair idea. Now, all this is as per the Telecommunication Act of 2023. In this context, this keyword is important, right of way. Let me give you a very basic example. Let's say there is a airport, and this is a correct example, correct in the sense that it was in news recently. So this is an airport. Now, if any telecom company want to have their wires pass from point A to point B, the airport authorities cannot say no in this case. That is basically referred as right of way. Apart from that, there is a concept of USOF. USOF is Universal Service Obligation Fund. Previously it was USOF. Now the new name is Digital Bharat Nidhi. In a very simple sense, telecom companies will pay a certain percentage of money in this fund, and that fund will be utilized for development of digital infrastructure. Next is related to draft Telecommunication Rules 2026. So this basically talks about different satellite operators, satellite based communication operators. So they need to follow the strict rules and regulations. Now understand the problem. Recently Iran witnessed this problem. See, there are two major ways through which internet is used by the people. One is through mobile network, and second is satellite based. Now mobile companies which are operating from that particular country, so of course they are going to follow the rules and regulations of that country. But in case of satellite based internet, it is not necessary that the satellite operators are going to follow your rules and regulations. So what had happened in case of Iran, the Iran authorities had imposed limitations on the internet. The Starlink had allowed internet access via these satellites. So that's why there was a criticism that they pose a security threat to the national sovereignty, because the government of that particular country is putting restrictions, and those restrictions are being bypassed with the help of these satellite based internet providers. So in that background, it is quite important. So these guidelines are issued as per the Telecommunications Act of 2023, and these satellite companies need security clearances and explicit approval from the central government for broadcasting the services. And the spectrum will be assigned through an administrative route with a specific fees. So fees will be provided in advance, that okay, you will have to pay this much amount of fees for the spectrum. Next is related to the root server. So government of India is saying that we want more and more root servers in India. See, understand what is root server. As the name suggests, main server. So our website is going to get information through this server. So government is saying that we are now dependent on the external servers. We want such servers to be set up in India. Otherwise, what will happen? We are technically dependent on other countries. So if these servers will be situated in India, then of course what will happen? This will promote digital sovereignty. Apart from that, they are since they are situated outside, so they are prone to external influence. In that context, India is also contending for data localization. What is data localization? That the sensitive data of Indian people should be stored within India or within Indian boundaries. Next is related to E-0FIR. So basically, the Prime Minister chaired the 52nd meeting of Pragati. What is Pragati? So Pragati is like proactive governance initiative. So for example, you can see Prime Minister is directly interacting with the state level authorities and other ministries. So this initiative is referred as Pragati. Now in this initiative, the Prime Minister highlighted the zero FIR. Now what is zero FIR? In a very simple sense, you can register your FIR in any police station irrespective of jurisdiction. So any police station can be used for registration of FIR. Doesn't matter whether the crime has happened in their territorial jurisdiction or not. Next is related to interstate river water dispute. Now understand, most of these issues are static, but one important development is there. Recently, a high-level committee was set up to resolve the water dispute between Telangana, Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. Now, in this context, please remember, water is a state subject. But there are two major entries. One is entry 17, which is in the state list. Since it is in state list, state government are empowered to legislate on these matters, for example, water, irrigation and storage. But it is subject to the provisions of entry 56 in the union list. What is entry 56 in the union list? It empowers the parliament to regulate and develop interstate river if declared necessary in the public interest. Okay, so that simply means central government can intervene in case of interstate rivers, and that's why it is usually said that central government is basically involved in this matter, even though water is a state subject. Apart from that, Article 262 empower the parliament to exclude the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, and in that context there are various river boards which are mentioned in the Lakshmikant as well. So nothing new is there. Just understand this thing, that there is a state jurisdiction as well. There is a concurrent jurisdiction that depends on the circumstances. Next is related to emergency provisions. So recently we completed 50 years of emergency, and in that context the current government have mentioned that they are going to commemorate this as Samvidhan Hatya Divas. That simply means the constitution was murdered. So in that context it was in news. Rest of the things are quite static, nothing need to be explained. Next is related to proof of citizenship, which was quite in news. So recently there was a statement by Ministry of External Affairs that a passport is primarily a travel document. It is not the conclusive proof of citizenship. Now why this statement is correct, understand it. Because under section 20 of Passport Act, the center can issue passport to non-citizens as well. So just because you have a passport, that does not mean you are Indian citizen. Why so? Because this section says that this can be issued to non-citizens as well, and that's why there is a problem. Problem is that then what proves the Indian citizenship? Aadhaar is not a proof of citizenship. Your voter ID is not a proof of citizenship. So we don't have a single document which can basically say that okay, this proves that you are Indian citizen, and that's why there is a overlapping series of documents. Similarly, Aadhaar is not a proof of citizenship, because again it can be issued to migrants as well. Electoral roll, again it is a presumption, because you are allowed to vote, so it is presumed that you are a citizen, but again it is not a conclusive. Conclusive basically means just because you have this document, that does not mean you will be considered as a citizen. You need to provide other circumstances or other evidence as well. And the last news is related to Yamuna water project. This is a water project for sharing the water of Yamuna, as the name suggests. Recently it was in news because of the government of Haryana and Rajasthan. They signed an agreement for the construction and implementation of this Yamuna water project. So what will happen? So water will be shared with Rajasthan from the western Yamuna canal, that is Hathni Kund barrage, during the month of monsoon. So let's have a look at the location. So this is Yamuna river and this is Hathni Kund barrage. Now so this one is Yamuna river, this is Hathni Kund, and this is western Yamuna canal project, through which water will be shared with Rajasthan. and this is Eastern Yamuna Canal. So these were the important polity current affairs from the Vision IAS June 2026 current affairs series. In the next part, we are going to cover the current affairs of IR. Thank you, and that's all for today.